Hey everybody, Proportional Response here, reminding you that the world ends on May 21st, and the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie comes out on May 20th, so if you really want to see it, you better see it on opening day. Now, a few weeks ago there was a comment that I saw copy and pasted onto a lot of people's Facebook status, and that's what I want to address today. Now, in a way, I am addressing one specific person in this. I have blacked out the name and the photograph so that no one can see who that is, but I did see this posted on a lot of people's status, and so I am also making this video for the general public. The Facebook post went like this. Let's be clear on this. Obama did not kill Bin Laden, an American soldier who Obama, along with Congress, just a few weeks ago was debating on whether or not to pay, did. Obama just happened to be the one in office when our soldiers finally found Osama Bin Laden and took him out. This is not an Obama victory. This is an American victory. While thinking about how to make this video and what to actually say, I already foresee certain criticisms that are going to come. So let me be clear. As a former member of the United States Air Force and a good friend with many people who are still serving and in the reserves here at the university, I am not by any means diminishing what any member of the service has done. I don't think anyone really does. I haven't heard a speech in the past 10 years that doesn't give credit and due and applause to every member of the military. So I'm not taking away from what they do by any means, no more than I would take away from what I did for 6 years. My first problem with this statement actually starts right here. An American soldier who Obama, along with Congress just a few weeks ago, was debating on whether or not to pay. Now there's two things that always happen in politics and public opinion which blow my mind, and both which are shown in that first sentence. The first is an oversimplification of a very complicated idea. The next one is a display of short-term memory loss. First, the oversimplification. Yes, there was a debate that was going on months ago which involved military pay. However, that was tied in a much bigger debate about the budget itself. The entire budget was going forward. There were huge lines being drawn. Nobody was moving. Part of that budget was that the military would not get paid. But that is an oversimplification. The debate itself was not between parties of whether or not to pay military. That debate would not happen, as exemplified by the fact that I've said already that there are speeches, and every time any congressmember, member of Senate, the president gives a speech, they always thank the troops. That debate doesn't happen. The bigger debate did happen about the budget itself, and there were lines that were drawn in the sand. This is where the second part comes in, because there were lines drawn in the sand. And in that, the short-term memory loss comes in remembering who was for what. If everyone was against the military getting paid, or on a certain side of that budget, which that military pay was a small part of, well then there would have been no debate at all. They just wouldn't have paid them. So which side was it that was actually saying it would be better to shut down the government and take that provision that would have the military not get paid? Well, it wasn't President Obama. A more accurate depiction of that debate was that President Obama and Democrats were against shutting down the government, whereas certain members of the Republican Party and Tea Party caucus were willing to shut down the government if they didn't get the concessions for the budget that they wanted. But there were lines drawn in the sand, and it is important to remember who was on either side. The idea that you can type something like that or put something like that into a Facebook post wanting to associate the President Obama, with the idea that he wanted to not pay military and he wanted to shut down the government by extension, which was the bigger problem, is just plain wrong. And this debate only happened a few months ago. So, like I was saying before, an oversimplification of an extremely complicated idea tagged along with short-term memory loss, two things that just blow my mind. I understand that I study this stuff every day, and I understand there's a lot of you who are watching this who understand this because you study it every day, but it really blows my mind who people who they don't watch this every day and they don't keep up with it, yet they're so willing to just listen to some new information which seems to override the information they already knew for a fact when this was going on. And on to part two. Obama just happened to be the one in office when our soldiers finally found Osama Bin Laden and took him out. Now, not only was this on a Facebook status that was copy-pasted to a lot of people's Facebook statuses, but I've also gotten this sentiment from a large number of people that I've talked to at the university and in the general public. Now, so far twice I've had the opportunity to actually sit down and have a discussion with someone who made that sentiment and explain to them that it shows a fundamental lack of understanding of three specific areas which they seem to be overlooking in making a statement like that. Those are history, governmental structures, and the details which were involved in this particular mission. Now, I've found from those discussions that I did already have that having examples and explaining those and then moving on to this particular mission actually does a lot more in explaining what it was. So let me start with one that everyone's heard about. So let's start with the first one, the Bay of Pigs in 1961. Eisenhower actually started the works on it, but it was executed under President Kennedy. The Bay of Pigs, of course, was an attempt to overthrow Fidel Castro, who was the leader in Cuba. Now, there were several reasons the Bay of Pigs was a fiasco. A few days before the Bay of Pigs invasion actually happened, it was published in the U.S. papers. Of course, that information found its way to Havana. The CIA, for their part, trained mercenaries for that invasion itself. Mercenaries, by and large, make poor soldiers, and there was no uniformed military involvement at all by the U.S. This was Kennedy's line in the sand. He wouldn't have it at all. This is why there was no aerial bombardment, there was no air cover at all, and why the mercenaries got beat back, and all of this fell apart in just a couple days. Now, when this happened, did Kennedy get away scot-free? Of course he did not. He executed it. Like I said, Eisenhower began the preparations, but he was the one who executed it and gave it a green light. So the CIA took tons of heat for this, but the Kennedy administration was not without blame. No one really spoke up in the Kennedy administration against it. Kennedy went ahead with it, and this was only 3 or 4 months. He took it in January 20th, and this was April 17th. So February, March, April. 3 months he was already in office. And this was pretty much how he started his presidency under a failed invasion. Okay, second example, Operation Eagle Claw, which is the specific example that I brought up to this person, and I'm not sure if you actually got that, but here's an explanation of what I was trying to say. Back in the late 70s, there was an Iran hostage situation where Iran had tons of US members from the embassy and they had them held hostage. It sounds odd when I say it, but it failed for lots of reasons, and that was the reason that it failed. There were a number of objectives which had to be accomplished and had to be successful in order for the overall operation to be successful. During one of those, there was an abandoned airstrip which many military aircraft landed, C-130s and helicopters. During the middle of this, there was a huge sandstorm and visibility was down to 0. One of the helicopters tried to take off, and as it did, a helicopter's natural inclination when it first takes off is to tilt. That's because of the rotors which are rotating on top. In 0 visibility, the pilot could not compensate for that. Drifted that helicopter into the wing of a C-130, which is where the fuel is held. It exploded, and the mission failed. Now, this was a huge blow for the Carter administration. If the mission had been successful, then he would have received tons of praise for getting the hostages out safely. However, something he couldn't control, the 0 visibility, was a factor in the mission being a failure. Now, this was a huge blow to Carter, not only his administration, but him personally. A huge portion of the rest of his time in office was spent aimed at getting the Iran hostages out, which he did, but unfortunately not under his administration. He actually got all the deals, everything done to get the Iran hostages out, and all the hostages were actually on a plane on the tarmac ready to take off, but Iran refused to release them until Reagan had taken office. Reagan got into office, made his very first inaugural speech. There, within 20 minutes of Reagan being sworn in as president, they gave thumbs up for the plane to actually leave and go back as a final one-finger salute to Carter. So those are 2 examples of missions which were enacted under presidents that because they were unsuccessful, they took huge amounts of blame for. Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum of that is whenever presidents enact missions which go well and they're successful and they receive praise for that. 2 examples for that, Jessica Lynch. When Jessica Lynch was rescued, President Bush got the credit for that. In addition, whenever the captain of the Alabama was taken prisoner by Somali pirates, it was Navy SEALs who were on the boat who took that shot under authorization of the president, and they took those 3 shots simultaneously that of course everyone remembers. Well, I like to think everyone remembers. If not, I'll leave a link down there about just how great those shots were. Those were unbelievable and shows a lot of credit to the training of the Navy SEALs, of course. But those 2 missions were successful, and the presidents who were in office at the time, because they authorized those, received credit for it. Now, I went through all those just so I could get to this particular mission. This particular mission stands out for several reasons. Number 1, the first information about the location of Osama Bin Laden came last year in August. It was worked not only through the president, through briefings, but also it was worked through intelligence community and military intelligence. During this ramp up to the actual operation itself, there was a huge debate over how to actually do this. A very few people said we should actually put boots on the ground and actually go in there and get him, try to capture him and kill him if we have to. Others said no, we should just launch a missile from our Predator drone. Most people in the intelligence community and the national security team were voting for the missile strikes, which means that they would kill Osama Bin Laden, but they could not confirm that they actually did this. On the other end of that was to actually put boots on the ground and actually go in and make sure that we got him, to try to capture him, but to kill him, so that we could verify that we actually had killed Osama Bin Laden. On that side was Leon Panetta of the CIA for one, and President Obama. In the same way that if something would have happened during that operation, which President Obama could not control, let's say for example the entire ground was littered with mines and the Naval SEALs had gone in and they had all been killed. In the same way the Bay of Pigs, certain things couldn't be controlled, and the Operation Eagle Claw, certain things couldn't be controlled. The administration would have taken the brunt of that because he was the one who pushed for it. He was the one who knew about it. He was the one who was involved in it from August. So when the operation went well, and no U.S. military member was harmed, and they got Osama Bin Laden, then he should in turn give some praise for it. It was him who pushed to actually put boots on the ground. It was him who actually pushed to go in there and get him. I think the biggest thing that really disturbs me about this sentence, though, is, let me read it again and so I can make my point very clear. Obama just happened to be the one in office when our soldiers finally found Osama Bin Laden and took him out. The idea that he just happened to be the guy in a funny-shaped office really boggles my mind. It makes me think that whoever posted this and who was ever copying and pasting and putting it up there, maybe they didn't think that this would imply this, but they're really implying that there are two areas which are not connected. The Oval Office and the military itself. And that is not the case. It is the President of the United States who holds also the title of a Commander-in-Chief. He is the Commander-in-Chief of the military. When Special Forces operations go forward like this, like the Bay of Pigs, like Operation Eagle Claw, it is the President specifically which authorizes those. So this was not an instance where the military was doing their own thing, happened to find Osama Bin Laden, got him, killed him, and the President just happened to be the person in an oblong-shaped office. This was a mission that was directly authorized by the President to go forward. And if it had failed, then he would have received all the blame for it. So the idea that he is just a guy in office and should not receive any praise for a mission that went well is ludicrous to me. I just want to say this one more time because it is just that ludicrous. They are not two separate entities. One commands the other. The final sentence in this was that it was an American victory, and that's very much the case. It was a victory of the armed forces. It was a victory specifically of the Naval SEALs. It's a victory of the intelligence community, and is also a victory for the White House who authorized it, who knew about it, and who pushed to actually put boots on the ground to make sure that we got Osama Bin Laden. So I hope this was informative, and I hope I can spark some debate. I would love to see video responses and comments down below. Also, if you look down there in the description bar, I'm going to put several links to Operation Eagle Claw, to the Iran hostage situation, Lynch, Somali pirates. I'll put plenty of information down there for you to go and actually poke through more information if I've sparked anything of interest. Till next time, this is Proportional Response, reminding you that if you try, sometimes you will fail. Try harder. Fail better.